Have you ever been, trapped in a room just completely stuck with someone who exudes this unapologetic, suffocating arrogance?
Oh, absolutely. It's exhausting.
Right. They just take up all the oxygen, like they speak with this rigid, absolute certainty about everything.
Yeah, no room for debate at all.
Exactly. And your immediate internal reaction when you're dealing with someone like that is usually this mix of intimidation and a creeping secret doubt.
Oh, for sure. You start second guessing yourself.
You do. You find yourself wondering, do they know something I don't? Or are they actually as exceptional as they act?
It's a very common feeling.
Well, welcome to the deep dive.
Yeah.
Because today we are dismantling that exact feeling of intimidation.
We really are taking a sledgehammer to it today.
We are. We're using a brief but honestly incredibly potent essay from September 2010. It's titled Arrogance Stems from Ignorance by Shufeng, and the translation was edited by Kinyu.
It's a fantastic piece of writing.
Yeah.
Very sharp.
So sharp. And our mission today is to prove that extreme arrogance is actually the ultimate proof of extreme ignorance. Like, we are going to hand you a powerful new framework for understanding the human ego.
And it's all built on this one core premise, right? That our perception of the universe directly dictates our level of humility.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because to understand the root of arrogance, we really have to start by establishing the brutal baseline reality of human existence that the author presents.
Yeah, and the author establishes a baseline that is just intensely humbling. I mean, there is this immediate, stark contrast drawn between two entities, the universe and the human being.
Right. It's not a subtle comparison?
No, not at all. The universe is described as, quote, infinitely profound and boundless. And humans, in direct contrast, are presented as profoundly insignificant.
Just totally tiny in the grand scheme of things.
Exactly. The text suggests that when viewed against the literal scale of the cosmos, we are merely another form of biological life. We share the same fundamental insignificance as, any other living organism that is just trying to exist in this boundless space.
Which is wild to really think about. I mean, visualizing that phrase, infinitely profound and boundless, it requires a complete perspective shift.
It's almost too big to picture.
It is. Like, imagine the vastness of the entire Pacific Ocean, right?
Okay, yeah. Huge, deep water.
Just endless, churning, dark water stretching out for thousands of miles in absolutely every direction.
Right.
Now imagine a single microscopic speck of algae just floating somewhere in the middle of it.
Oh, wow.
That speck of algae is us. That is the objective baseline of our existence compared to the infinitely profound universe.
That is a terrifying visual, honestly.
Right. But that raises a massive question. If our baseline is truly just insignificant biological life, how do we manage to build up such massive egos in the first place? Like, how does that microscopic speck of algae convince itself that it is the absolute king of the ocean?
Well, that's exactly the point. Recognizing that fundamental insignificance, the algae in the ocean, that is the absolute starting point of wisdom in this text.
Okay.
Because that massive ego you're talking about, it's essentially a psychological coping mechanism.
Wait, really? A coping mechanism?
Yeah. I mean, think about it. The reality of a boundless, infinitely profound universe is terrifying to a conscious mind. It induces this sort of existential vertigo.
Oh, yeah. Just thinking about the ocean analogy gave me a little anxiety.
Exactly. So to function without being paralyzed by our own tininess, the human mind creates a subjective illusion of exceptionalism.
Oh, I see. We kind of trick ourselves.
Right. It constructs this narrative where it sits at the absolute center of everything.
Yeah.
So the central tension driving this entire philosophical framework is that clash.
The clash between the two realities.
Yes. The clash between our objective, tiny reality, the algae in the ocean, and the subjective, artificially inflated illusion of our own grand importance.
Man, that makes so much sense. That clash between objective reality and the subjective illusion really explains that internal friction we all feel.
It's a constant battle.
But if our objective reality is so vast and so terrifying, how do we actually construct this illusion on a daily basis, like mechanically?
Right. How does the brain pull off the trick?
Yeah. And this brings us to this brilliant geometric metaphor the author uses to explain human perception. Basically, humans are compared to circles drawn on a blank canvas.
I love this metaphor. It's so elegant.
It really is. So the idea is that the smaller the circle, the smaller the external world is for that person.
Makes sense. Less area inside.
Exactly. Consequently, a small circle means shallower inner content. But as that circle grows larger, their external world becomes larger. They accumulate richer inner content, and they develop a much deeper understanding of the universe's mysteries.
And here is the core argument of the essay.
Right. The text argues that the larger the circle, the more a person recognizes their own ignorance. And because they recognize that ignorance, they naturally exhibit humility, modesty, and unpretentiousness.
What's fascinating here is the precise geometry of how that circle functions as a model for the human mind.
Break that down for me.
Okay, think about the perimeter of the circle, the boundary line itself.
The edge of the circle.
Right. Everything contained inside the circle represents what you know. It's your inner content, your accumulated experiences, your understanding of the universe.
Okay, I'm with you.
But everything outside that circle represents the boundless unknown, the rest of the universe. Now, mathematically, as the area of a circle grows larger, its circumference, that boundary line touching the outside, also grows longer.
Okay, but wait a minute. I have to push back on this logic a bit.
Kutcher.
Because on the surface, that almost feels counterintuitive, right?
So,
Well, if I spend my entire life expanding my circle, gathering all this rich inner content, taking classes, reading books, and deepening my understanding of the universe, wouldn't knowing more make me more likely to become arrogant?
you'd think so, wouldn't you? It's the standard assumption.
Yeah. Like if I'm standing in a room and I mathematically possess the largest circle of knowledge there, the natural human inclination would be to feel like the smartest person in the room. Why would a massive circle result in modesty?
The answer lies entirely in that boundary line we were just talking about.
Okay.
See, when you only know a tiny little bit, when you operate from a very small circle, your boundary with the unknown is also very small.
Right, because the perimeter is short.
Exactly. You literally do not know what you do not know. The darkness outside your circle doesn't seem vast or intimidating because you are barely touching it. You can easily convince yourself that your tiny little circle encompasses the entire universe.
Oh, wow. Ignorance is bliss kind of thing.
Right. But as your circle expands, as you actively gain a deeper understanding of those profound mysteries, the boundary line of your circle stretches.
It gets huge.
Yes, you are suddenly in direct contact with an enormous expanse of the unknown. So you become acutely, overwhelmingly aware of just how much is out there that you do not understand.
Oh, I love that. The more you know, the more surface area you have touching the infinite unknown.
Exactly.
That completely reorients the concept of humility for me. Like, it's not a moral choice to be polite after learning a lot. The sheer richness of your inner content actively produces humility as like a mechanical byproduct.
Yes, mechanical byproducts is the perfect way to put it. You don't have to force it.
You are humbled by the newly visible scale of your own ignorance. I mean, unpretentiousness becomes the only logical response when you can finally see how boundless the universe actually is compared to your, accumulated knowledge.
Humility is the inevitable symptom of a large circle.
Hmm.
And the text then flips the equation to examine the alternative.
What small circles?
Right. The shallower a person's inner content is, and the less they understand the vast world, the more ignorant they are.
Yeah.
And the tragic irony built into this geometry is that the more ignorant they are, the more they regard themselves as exceptional.
Because they don't have that surface area.
Exactly. Lacking that surface area with the unknown, they mistake their tiny patch of reality for the entire cosmos.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because the author doesn't describe ignorance as a quiet, passive, or, blissful state.
Not at all.
Ignorance isn't portrayed as some monk peacefully meditating on a hill, unaware of world events. Ignorance is loud.
So loud.
The text gets incredibly specific about how a small circle manifests in daily behavior. Like, people with shallow inner content are prone to anger. They are plagued by stubbornness, rigidity, and this constant dissatisfaction with others.
We all know someone exactly like that.
We really do. They frequently assume they are always right, and they go around aggressively finding fault everywhere. And this mindset causes them to become increasingly aloof, arrogant, and disrespectful. But why? Why does the author specifically link things like anger and fault-finding to a lack of inner content?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, every single one of those behaviors functions as a defense mechanism.
A defense mechanism? For what?
Remember, we established earlier that the ego is a coping mechanism to deal with cosmic insignificance.
Right, the existential vertigo.
Exactly. When someone operates with a very small circle, when their inner content is incredibly shallow, their worldview is unbelievably fragile.
Because it's so tiny.
Right. They've staked their entire identity on the belief that their microscopic version of reality is the absolute unquestionable truth.
So when they encounter anything outside of their tiny circle, like a new idea, a different cultural perspective, or even just a complex mystery of the universe, it isn't just new information to them.
No, it's a threat.
It is a direct threat. It threatens to shatter their entire illusion of exceptionalism.
You nailed it. To a small circle mind, the vast unknown is deeply terrifying. The only way to defend such a fragile, tiny circle is to build impossibly thick, rigid walls.
Ah, and that is the stubbornness and the rigidity the author mentions.
Exactly. You cannot afford to be flexible, because flexibility might let the infinite universe slip inside, and the sheer scale of that reality would just crush your artificially inflated ego.
So the anger is just fear.
Yeah. When someone challenges those rigid walls, the immediate involuntary reflex is anger. The anger acts as a fiery shield to keep the unknown at bay.
Wow. That reframes the concept of finding fault perfectly, because I noticed that fault finding and being constantly dissatisfied with others are major symptoms in this essay.
They're huge red flags.
It makes me think that finding fault isn't actually about the other person making a mistake. It is the arrogant person's desperate attempt to shrink everyone else down to fit inside their tiny circle.
Oh, that's a great way to put it. Shrinking others down.
Right. If I can point out your flaws, if I can be aloof and disrespectful to you, I am forcefully reducing your complexity so that my small circle remains the most important thing in the room.
That is a brilliant synthesis of the text's behavioral analysis, because the assumption of always being right is a mathematical necessity for them.
Right. In their circle, they're the only data point.
Exactly. Within the microscopic boundaries of their specific external world, they are the only data point that matters. Any conflicting data must be invalidated through disrespect and fault-finding.
Man. So arrogance within this framework is just the outer shell.
It is the desperately constructed armor protecting a terrifying internal shallowness.
So the loudest person in the room is simply overcompensating for having the shallowest understanding of the room.
Precise.
This text doesn't just offer a diagnosis of arrogance, though. It actually hands the listener a definitive, practical tool for daily life. The author states with absolute certainty that arrogance is entirely born of ignorance.
No exceptions.
None. There is no caveat. There is no exception made for arrogance that is supposedly justified by extreme wealth, extreme intelligence, or extreme talent. Arrogance stemming from ignorance is presented as a touchstone for evaluating the actual depth of a person's inner content.
And, the use of the word touchstone is a highly deliberate metaphor here.
Oh, really? Tell me about that.
Yeah, so historically, a touchstone was a literal piece of dark stone used by metallurgists. They used it to test the purity of precious metals like gold or silver.
Like rubbing the metal on the stone.
Exactly. You would draw the metal across the stone, and the specific color of the mark it left behind would immediately reveal its true quality.
You could see if it was real or fake.
Right, whether it was pure gold or just a cheap imitation. So the author is handing us a psychological touchstone to test the purity of the human ego.
Oh, I love that. So if we encounter someone whose gaze or whose tone or whose behavior reveals arrogance, we don't need to sit there and wonder if they are secretly a genius.
Nope, not at all.
We can just use their arrogant behavior as the touchstone that conclusively proves they lack inner depth.
The mark on the stone says fake gold.
Exactly. And the author then delivers this incredibly visual, honestly devastating metaphor. They describe this arrogant person as a, quote, decorative pillow stuffed with straw. All appearance and no substance.
It's so good.
It is brutal comparing a human ego to a decorative pillow, like all shiny, expensive silk on the outside and just dry, dead straw on the inside. It strips away all the intimidation factor of dealing with these personalities.
But it really does. It deflates them.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener, standing in a tense meeting, faced with someone whose gaze is just dripping with arrogance?
It fundamentally and immediately flips the power dynamic of that interaction.
How so?
Well, our default human reaction to extreme arrogance, as you mentioned at the start of this deep dive, is intimidation.
Right, we get quiet.
We shrink back. We question our own worth. We let their artificially large ego make us feel like we are the ones with the small circle.
Yeah, we let them take the oxygen.
But when you actively apply this touchstone, the intimidation just evaporates. You are no longer looking at a superior, exceptional being. You're looking at a decorative pillow stuffed with straw.
Just silk and straw.
Exactly. You can see the shiny, loud, rigid exterior, the silk cover of the pillow. But because you understand the mechanical geometry of the circle, you know for an absolute fact that inside, There is nothing but dry, scratchy straw.
Wow. There is no rich inner content hidden behind that glare. There is no deep understanding of the universe supporting that rigid tone. There is only the frantic, loud defense mechanism of a tiny circle trying to protect its fragile illusion.
That's all it is, fear and straw.
It completely neutralizes the sting of someone else's disrespect. I mean, when an arrogant person is aloof or dismissive toward you, it is not a reflection of your worth or your intelligence. It is literally a flashing neon sign broadcasting their own ignorance.
And this framework allows you to observe their behavior with a sense of calm, analytical detachment.
Instead of getting defensive.
Right. Instead of getting defensive yourself and sparking a confrontation, you can just silently note the diagnostic data.
You're like a scientist observing them.
Exactly. You see the rigidity, you note the fault finding, and you recognize that this person is just trapped in a very small circle. It transforms arrogance from a weapon used against you into a piece of actionable intelligence that reveals the other person's profound limitations.
You are literally diagnosing the straw inside the pillow in real time.
Real-time straw diagnosis.
I love that. Looking back at the entire progression of this deep dive, the logic is incredibly tight. I mean, we start with the cosmic reality. The universe is infinitely profound, and we are just insignificant biological life, like the algae.
Right, and that vastness forces the human mind to construct a circle of knowledge just to cope with the dread of the unknown.
And the size of that circle dictates your relationship with reality. A large circle, representing a deep understanding of mysteries, gives you so much contact with the vast unknown that humility is the only mathematical and psychological result.
You simply know too much to be arrogant.
While the small circle, isolated from the vastness of reality, breeds that toxic illusion of exceptionalism.
It creates the rigidity, the anger, the disrespectful assumptions of always being right, and the endless fault-finding.
Meaning that arrogance is never, ever a sign of actual superiority or deep knowledge. It is the ultimate, undeniable touchstone of a shallow inner life.
But this raises an important question about how we direct this touchstone.
What do you mean?
Well, it is very easy and honestly very satisfying to spot the straw in others.
Oh, yeah. Judging others is the fun part.
Right. But the real difficult work is turning that touchstone inward, ensuring we are constantly cultivating rich inner content within ourselves instead of building walls.
Oof, that's the hard part. So the next time you find yourself digging your heels in, feeling irrationally angry when your views are challenged, or finding fault with absolutely everyone around you, take a moment to check your own geometry.
Check your perimeter.
Exactly. Ask yourself, am I actively expanding my boundary with the unknown, or am I just being a decorative pillow stuffed with straw?
It's a humbling question to ask yourself.
It really is. Now, I want to leave you with one final provocative thought to mull over. We live in a society that frequently rewards loud, unwavering certainty.
Oh, absolutely.
If arrogance is the absolute touchstone of ignorance, as this text guarantees, is it possible that the people our society often elevates as the most confident, unyielding, and exceptional leaders might actually be the ones operating from the smallest circles of all?
That is a thought that will keep you up at night.
It definitely will. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning the scale of your reality and keep expanding your circle.